Okay, I'm just gonna start. This started as a project in my exchange semester 2.5 years ago here in Britain as a film student. And at the time we were researching, we started the project because we were just wondering about the huge amount of cameras in Britain. And yeah, it was just a very strange thing to us, because when we first came here we just were struck by the omnipresence of the cameras, and so we thought it would be a great project for our documentary class. And I think our tutor is here, Jenny Morgan. I haven't seen her in almost 2.5 years. She coached us during that time. And yeah, and only 1 year ago, or about 1 year ago, I decided to pick the project up again and make it my final diploma project. I went back here, did 6 new interviews, almost no new background footage because we didn't have the time. That's why you saw so many talking faces for over 1 hour. And yeah, that's how it's
because, I mean, of course we are in a film festival and it's the first time that the film is screened in the UK, but of course you consider showing this to show this documentary on television. But what about the part that takes place in Austria? I mean, do you to broadcast this documentary in the UK? Have you thought about editing, or do you think it's too long?
I think it might be a bit too long, yeah. But this was just a way to really. On the one hand, of course, I put Austria in it because I am Austrian, so I wanted to compare that. Mm-hmm. It might or might not be relevant for the British to have a comparison on the continent, but of course, the length is 65 minutes, not really TV length. Yeah, of course I could shorten it, that's no problem, yeah. But it was also a way to get into Austrian film festivals, mm-hmm. and that was quite successful. Yeah.
Ah, that's what I wanted to ask as well. How was the reception there?
It was very well, but despite the fact that it's the same version here, there's no German version or so it was very well received. It became one of the 5 most popular films out of, I don't know, 200 in this year's festival. Which is about the same size as Cambridge Film Festival, mm-hmm. And yeah.
Well, I'm gonna leave it to you if you have any questions to ask Nino. I'm gonna need to shout. Does anyone want to ask something about the documentary?
Well, I'm just going to ask how much you actually believe in what you've just shown us, as opposed to the idea of making a film.
Okay, what do you mean? Is there something especially?
No, it's a very interesting idea. It's an interesting film, and it's very relevant. But how much do you actually believe in it, or how much are you just making a film which gets you through what you've got to get through in your process of?
A good question, because I believe very much in it. That was the reason why I went through with this, because it's not easy to revive a project after it's been in the drawer for over 1.5 years. So it was a motivation due to the very topical theme to pick it up again and to make it a longer film. Yeah. So it's not really. Of course, it's a. For me, film festivals are a way to show it to the public, because there's almost no other way to get some exposure and to see the reaction of the people. So this is a good way to do this. But if you mean I didn't make this film in order to get into film festivals or be here, I made this film because it was a very it was an issue that was very important to me, and I think it is still very underrepresented in British media, because as we saw in the film, there is not much critical response from British media due to the fact that it's only useful imagery and brings good headlines.
Well, we've seen how many people you've had in here tonight or this afternoon, which is not very many.
Yeah.
How are you going to get the message out to more people? Because this is something that actually does concern me quite a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm quite unusual in that, but I always look for cameras.
Okay.
So I always know where they are. But that's just me. When they introduce the road pricing, which is coming in, every car movement is going to be tracked. They're going to know where you are at all times. Every single car that travels on the road is going to be known. The movements will be known at all times. So we are sleepwalking, I think, into a society where, while it's still benign, that's fair enough. But who's to say it's going to stay benign?
It was briefly mentioned in the documentary because this was, when I finished the film, it was about half a year ago. So this was already known that they want to do this. But what you said earlier, I am trying to get into some TV channel or something, which is quite hard to do.
What about on the internet? Can you not?
I will do that, but I've put so much money into this. I'm trying to get something out of it first. And so I can still put it on the internet in December or something. But before that, I'll try to get into a TV channel, maybe, yeah.
And you're just doing film festivals everywhere?
Yeah, it's now, this is the third festival. First was Austria, then in Croatia, and now here, the UK premiere, yeah. Yeah, of course, it's not a way to get a lot, to be seen by a lot of people. But maybe somebody in the audience is sitting there from a TV channel or whatever, and might be interested in distribute it or show or screen it or broadcast it.
I don't know how much goes on at Edinburgh, whether there's any possibility of getting a screening at the Edinburgh Festival or whether...
Well, I have to admit I haven't submitted it to Edinburgh because they are the most expensive film festival ever. 150 euros just for submission. No, I've submitted it to I think six or seven other festivals in the UK, like Sheffield Documentary Film Festival and stuff like that. So they might be interested, or London Film Festival. I don't know, but we'll see.
When you started to make the film and approach people, did you find that people were eager to talk to you, or did you have difficulty?
I think they were quite eager to talk to me, but oddly only those who were critical of the systems. That's why there was another reason to go back to the project and to find other people, because when we did the short version of the film, most people were surveillance critics, which is not really something which is can be said that is representative of the British public, because they are very much in favor of the technology. So we went back and tried to get interview partners who were defending the systems, which was much harder to do, I think, because you have to go to whatever bigger institutions like the British Transport Police, to Parliament Advisory Committee and stuff like that. Yeah. It's funny that those who are critical of the systems are more eager to talk about it.
Which of the techniques used in the UK concern you most, and why?
It's hard to say, but I think it's ANPR. It's just the fact that every single car journey is being monitored, and the outlook in the future that there might someday be the possibility to tracking faces around and to just to find out where individual persons live, because now they are starting to, I think the UK also has the biggest DNA database in the world, so all this linked together might be scary, because it's not that I'm suspecting that the government is doing something wrong with it, but the question is what happens later, what happens in 10 years. This data is here to stay. We all know that digital data is not ever being erased, even if they say they have to erase it after 1 month. Who is going to control that? And so there is the possibility of somebody using that data at a later date. And for example, if you are living near to some brothel or something and park your car there every day, and in 10 years you're a politician and somebody is going to, whatever, trying to get some money out of you just by threatening to publish this fact. It sounds maybe funny, but it is a real threat, I think.
Obviously, you saw I think it was the British medical establishment put a
Right. It needs only one person who's working in the system to misbehave, and it's just a vast power that this person has over all the people who are being surveilled. So, and as we saw, most people monitoring CCTV cameras are not really policemen. Most of them are private security, and they really have long hours to work. They have about 12-hour shifts, most of them, and there are 2 people sitting in front of 300 screens in Southampton, for example, 300 cameras, which are on, I don't know, 30 or 40 screens, and it's just, you cannot even blame them that they are trying to do something with their time when they're bored. So there is a real threat of someone misbehaving, I think.
There have been many cases. My lawyer was telling me when she helped me get compensation after I was injured by security staff, many cases of private security staff injuring members of the public and themselves doing wrong things, which I've experienced 2 meters in front of 2 different security cameras, and the records could not be made available to my lawyer. They were erased. So again, a somewhat smaller case, but I see it in the local paper. The poor gentleman whose car was seriously damaged, who used it to provide transport for a disabled member of the family, parked it in front of security cameras at Tesco's here. And of course the notices say that it's for your protection and for the security of the public. The car was damaged again. Tesco's couldn't supply any of the records, and they ordered him not to park his car there. So that's the reality of what the camera is only as good as whoever is using it. And the strange thing about my own case is that there was no denial that I was there or that I had been wrongfully injured, despite the fact that the tapes were erased. It in fact made no difference one way or the other. It's as if the cameras were never there, and I did in fact receive compensation after a long delay of a couple of years. And it seems to me that the theory and practice are 2 quite different things, as many people find with other computer systems. You were talking in the film about the limitations of facial recognition. There's some strange process going on here where it seems as if some kind of a myth of perfect regulation of everyday life is driving the whole process forward, when life isn't like that, and it's some complicated tapestry of different people with lots of different motives, and all kinds of different people have access to these systems. You mentioned most of them are in private hands, and it's not as the public like to imagine it, and it certainly didn't protect me.
It is, just as you said, this is a regular thing. It happens every day in the UK. I've been monitoring the news about CCTV for over 1.5 years now, every day, and until the film was finished. And it's really a regular news report that somebody parked his car just besides the CCTV camera. It is being vandalized, and the police either refuse to show it because it's just too much work. They do not know when it happened, so they have like 48 hours of footage to scroll through, to scrub through, and they are denied to do that without being paid extra, or it's been erased. And I think the first time this problem came into the awareness of the public was with the case of the Brazilian de Menezes, who was killed by Metropolitan Police officers just 2 weeks after the London bombings. There is no footage being found of these, although the London Underground is the most tightly surveilled area in the whole world. We really cannot step 1 meter without, you cannot take 1 step without being filmed, and none of the tapes was ever being rediscovered. They said it just vanished. So that's a real problem, yeah.
You asked for specific footage from the 4th of December,
Mm-hmm.
and then they sent you a letter saying, we don't have it because you asked for the 4th of November.
Yeah.
And so it's already been erased. Are you then saying, what are you saying exactly? That they've denied you that footage on purpose, or that it's administrative incompetence? I mean, why would they?
Well, either way, I think.
But you're sinister music.
Well, when we when we.
That it was, you know, that there was something very sinister going on, and you were specific.
I think they denied us to give it to us. Yeah, they denied to give it to us because when we called them, it took about 15 minutes to get to speak to the person who's responsible for this, and this should be an everyday process, because every member of the public has a right to demand footage, even from private CCTV operators. You can go to the Arts Picture House and say, I want to see all the tapes I'm on, and then they have to go through every single tape and have to black out all the faces, which is not yours, and then you get the tapes. They have to do this. This is law, and that's why they often deny to do that on some strange. Of course, it's a lot of money that's involved here. I know another filmmaker from Austria, ironically, with a film festival where this film premiered. She lives in London, and she made a whole feature film out of CCTV imagery. She just she performed with her actors in front of CCTV cameras, then went to all the instances, to the public CCTV operators of different boroughs and areas in London, and also the private operators, and she really went through with this with a lawyer, and they got over, I don't know, from 70 different people over a period of 5 years. They received footage. Still, about a third or so found some way to get out of it and not to deliver the footage, which is clear. It's clear to me that they didn't do it because it's just too much work and it's too expensive to do that. And she cut the whole movie out of this because they just have to deliver the footage. It's just law. And the problem with this is you cannot blame the operators because, of course, almost nobody ever demands this footage, especially from private buildings or something, or private businesses. But the problem is that the Data Protection Act was introduced in 1998. It became effective, I think, in 2001. So CCTV cameras were in Britain since 1993, 1994. And just afterwards, this law was being imposed. And so there is no real way of dealing with this. So people were just, all the businesses and all the people operating cameras were just struck by this demand to suddenly having to be able to supply all the footage that people demand. Yeah.
Well, the digital footage will be much easier to do that with printing.
Yeah, but most of the cameras are still analog tapes. And even if it's digital, it's mostly still on tape, and it's hard to get through tapes and to find something. But it's true, yeah. Most of many are thinking about upgrading to digital system because it's not only more efficient, it's much more cheaper. So they can, but there's also a danger in that because they can network now everything. They could make a national CCTV control room if they wanted to, when all the cameras are digital. They cannot do this now.
What are the compensating factors?
Can I just say,
Yeah.
I actually just wanted to broaden it. Firstly, I wanted to say thank you for your interviews at Griffin. Well done. I thought you got great stuff out of Clive Norris.
Yeah,
These
thanks.
kind of stuff. I actually wanted to ask a slightly broader question, which isn't on CCTV. I want to understand what's the future for documentary makers in Austria. I mean, who supports serious documentary in Austria? Is television?
Yeah.
Fund documentary? Is there an Austrian film council? What's the future, or do you have to look outside Austria for funding for your next film?
There are a lot of, or quite some, ways of getting money, like film funds and stuff like that. But this film was privately funded. I haven't had one pence out of all the money by anybody. It's just private money. It's a budget about, I think, 2,000 euros or something, where only the filming with all the flights and hotel costs. But there are ways of getting money in Austria for documentaries. But I think the problem is I couldn't have made this film with exclusively Austrian film money, because of course you have to get I don't know how exactly it is in Britain, but in Austria you have to get one big supporter, which is the public television. And it's similar to the UK, it's quite a monopoly, even more so, because we only have one real nationwide private channel, so they really control not only TV but also the film industry. And the problem with this is that if you get money from them, and you need this money because they are the only ones who provide a significant amount of money, because the other film funds just say, we give you 20% or 10%, but only if you get the rest from other sources or private funding. So you really have to go to the public television, and they then have the rights on the film forever. It's not like here or somewhere else where it expires in 7 years or so. They really have the rights forever. And that's why I wasn't even interested I didn't have the time, because you don't have a chance as a film student to get funding from them. And I didn't have a production company, so I just wanted to get on with the projects and funded it myself. But next project, I think I have to look outside of Austria, because of the fact that I'm not interested in making films that focus only on Austria, or maybe, of course, some money could be from Austria, but some might be from the UK or wherever, and all this combined. I'm not interested in making documentaries which deal only with a very national topic. I think this is about the UK, but it's of global relevance, because the UK is just the leader in surveillance.
Is there anywhere that I can find out a kind of league table of the number of cameras? If the UK is thought to have more per head than anywhere else, who is number 2, for instance?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say, because you have to count the per capita number. So, of course, there are many cameras in New York, for example, but there, as a whole, are not many cameras in the USA. I think number 2 might already be some non-democratic country like China or North Korea. I heard they have a lot of cameras, but there are no real figures. And these numbers who were put up by Clive Norris, the 4 million CCTV camera figure, is now already 8 years old, and it was a very conservative guesstimate then. So you can imagine it's far more today. Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering what, given that this country is so closely observed, why you and your friend live or visit? What are the compensating factors?
What do you think? I'm deterred to live here just because of the fact of the cameras? Or?
Not necessarily. I'm guessing no.
No. It just really was a starting point that we were struck by the amount. I mean, if you are going to you might have had the experience for yourself, but if you're going to a foreign country for the first few times, you might see things differently. Now I don't even, funny enough, I don't even see the cameras anymore that much as I did like 2 years ago or 1 year ago. But now when I come here, it's just usual. And you might see some things in Austria when you go there that I don't see. And that's a good thing, I think, for a documentary filmmaker, a good point to start, to see things differently.
And just to ask you something, back home in Vienna, are you working television, or you do have any intention to do feature films, or how you been surviving? Spend a lot of your own money on this.
I've been surviving in working every now and then for production companies.
Did you get any deal? I mean, to finish your film?
No.
In post-production? No, it's all.
No, it's all. This is all the people who worked on it. Almost all the people are film students.
Okay.
Like all my camera woman and everybody.
Colleagues, they're Spanish colleagues.
Right.
From college.
Right. And it's always hard to get funding, whatever funding, as soon as you've started the project, you really have to get the funding done before you even shoot the first minute, because then you will say you already started, you don't need the money. So it's a hard thing. And yeah, I've been surviving through work for film production companies, which are mainly in the commercials business, and yeah, and I'm now working as a cameraman for another production, which is a DVD production for a large German language publisher. They're doing the first DVD for a school, English learning school, you know. And yeah, doing commercials for myself, just small projects, yeah,
okay.
for customers. Yeah.
And the rest of the crew, your colleagues,
Yeah.
from that you went to school here, what are you doing? They all went back home.
Very different. Yeah. Those people who worked on it 2 years ago when we started it, I didn't have them available last year when I finished it, and when I did the reshooting, I had to find a new crew, which was very hard. Because all my colleagues were caught up with their diploma films and works, so I had to really convince them. And I think the Spanish guys are, I just met one 2 months ago in Vienna. He's now working for Mediaset. It's one large TV channel in Spain, which is part of the Berlusconi group, this Italian, yeah. And he's going to be a producer. Yeah, he's a TV and news producer now, and is working there. I think one of the others, his friend, also from Spain, is now studying, I think, art or something in Madrid. And yeah, another colleague of mine is also just finished with studies or looking for a job. So we're all in this transitory period.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Well, I really want to thank you for staying here for the Q&A, and I want to thank you, Nino, for coming here, presenting your film. Congratulations, and I wish you all the best and
Thank you.
success from now on.